Stage 4 to create the die set around the punches in the strip. We have the choice to bring in a pre-existing assembly or utilize the die set wizard settings. Also, defer the hole generation, so all the clearance holes will be created after I start to create some of the standard components. That will save us some time. At this stage, we're going from a part mode to a full assembly. This assembly will create the plates. In this case, it's very generic. And then we'll start to bring each one of the punches over into the assembly. It is naming the punch or the bend based upon the codes that were set up in the project info. It's also creating its own directory structure so that you can keep the jobs separate, and of course you can determine what parts are custom and what parts are standard. Also, it's checking if any of the parts are alike. Therefore, it will give it the same name, and it will not copy, but it will instance it, so your bill of material would be correct. It's copying them over into the assembly, and then we can start to create our standard components. On the left side of the screen, you can see that our feature manager has been converted from a standard feature manager to the component manager. Very similar, except now you're looking at the component level. You can see that all the standard plates and then all of our components have their own holding or own placeholder. At this point, it's very simple. We need to start to lay out some standard components. So we're going to go and utilize a quick press tool called Layout Sketch. On the top plate here, I want to lay out 6 fasteners. This is a nice handy tool that allows you to find the center of the die and quickly type in an X and Y series of coordinates, which I'll do 170 and 270, and I'll do 3 in the X direction and 2 in the Y direction. These points will drive our components. To do standard components, select on our standard component tool. We can pick from catalogs or favorites list, which is a shortcut. Instead of digging through all the different folders, we could set up basically shortcuts. We'll pick up a standard fastener. This is a design table driven fastener that is driven by SOLIDWORKS configurations. As you can see here, there's a numerous amount of different options for this one part. That's standard SOLIDWORKS functionality. The reference face is the face that we're drilling from, and then finally the sketch pattern. It's going to place 1 so we can preview it. Now it gives us the choice to flip it and offset it. So the preview gives us a real good chance of visualizing and then of course adjusting. And in this case I need to go a little longer. Once we're okay with that, tell it to go, and it places the 6 fasteners without the holes yet. Remember, I deferred the hole generation till later. We can reutilize that sketch over and over again, or we can create our own sketch without utilizing the layout sketch tools. So for instance, if I wanted to put a series of guide pins in, I might want to hide some components, and I pick a face, start a sketch, and I can just use the standard SOLIDWORKS point tool and place a series of points. Of course I can dimension to them, but for time's sake we'll just lay them out. 4 separate points. Close that sketch, and now we can put in some guide pins. Going back to our catalog, favorites list, pick up some guide pins, tell it what face we want to select, and then of course what pattern. Switch some views around so you can see what's happening. Here we have a preview, and Maybe it's a little bit short, so we can extend that out. Once we're satisfied with that, tell it to generate the other 3. Let's add the components back that we hid. Now we can have Quick Press create the details. And what the details in this case are all the clearance holes for each plate relevant to the function of that plate as we set up in the punch design. And of course the clearance holes for the screws and for the guide pins. Once this is complete, we can step into cleaning up some of the plates, splitting them, creating inserts, clearance, and it takes a couple minutes to complete this.